welcome to this new SAP S/4HANA Cloud Knowledge snippet. In today's snippet, we will be looking at how you can update a custom business object that you would have created in your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system leveraging an OData request. Now, this is not anything new by any stretch of the imagination. The ability to update a custom business object via OData has been possible since the very first release of SAP S/4HANA Cloud. However, up until recently, when you did want to update a custom business object leveraging an OData call, you first needed to figure out if the record that you were trying to push to your S/4HANA Cloud system existed or not. And the result of that answer meant that if the record did exist, then you would use the patch command in your OData request. And if the record did not exist, then you would use the post command in your OData request. Now, you can already understand that from a methodology point of view, there is a cost associated to determining this. Number one, you need to make a call to your S/4HANA Cloud system to query the existence of the record. So already your system is taking a small hit just to be able to answer whether yes or no the record exists. And then depending on the answer, you would then make the OData call that would update your system leveraging the post or patch command. However, I've recently been working on a project, and I have a colleague of mine based in the US called Marty, and I'll also add a link to some of the blogs that he's written in the SAP community, who advised me of this import function that I had no clue existed up until he told me about it, which is called SAP_upsert. Now, SAP_upsert or upsert is the contraction of the words update and insert. And essentially, this import function takes care of updating the record, whether it's going to be resulting in an insert, i.e. it's an addition, you're putting a new record into your system, or you're updating an existing one. So I'll show you in this particular snippet how you can use this import function. Some of the things that are important to note if you are going to be using this particular function is that, let me see, here we go. I'll also put the link to the help on this particular function, which is that it is case sensitive. So all the parameters that you are going to be passing in your OData service, i.e. all the fields that you're going to be updating, all the fields of your custom business object, the case has to be respected. So you have to pass those fields with the lower and upper cases as you have defined them in the custom business object. The other thing that you also have to note is that with this function, you have to pass all of the fields. So if you have a custom business object for which you defined 10 fields, but you are trying to update only 2 of those 10 fields for any given record, you still have to pass all the 10 fields in the URL. So that's another constraint that you have to work with. Another thing to note is that with this particular method, the entire payload that you're going to be passing is included in the URL. So you're not passing an XML or a JSON file. Everything that you're going to be passing in that OData has to be wrapped in the URL. And then lastly, the thing to note is that this method works and is really applicable if you're going to be updating a single record at a time. So this works really well if you, for example, have a third-party system that you want to communicate in real time or near real time with S/4HANA Cloud. So as and when the changes happen in your third-party systems, they get replicated to your S/4HANA Cloud system. And in those cases, it's more than likely that you'll be updating a record at a time. So that works well. If you are going to be looking for a method to mass update a number of records, then this SAP_upsert function will not serve you well at all. So as I said, I'll put the links to the help in the description of the video. So let's go into the SAP S/4HANA Cloud System. And what I've done is I've created a custom business object that is of no particular relevance, except that it has a few fields, and I've added a few with different types. So we've got a numeric identifier, we've got a text field, an amount with a currency, a number, a date, and a checkbox, just to get a feel of how you should format those parameters in your URL when you're going to be updating a record in your custom business object. Another thing to note is, of course, that you need to have one field at least that is going to be the key, that is going to help you uniquely identify any given record in all the records that you might have in your custom business object. Because, of course, when you're going to be updating those records, this is what the system is going to be looking for when you call that import function. He's going to be looking for the key, and if it already exists, then it'll update the record, and if it doesn't, it'll insert the record. Okay, so the key is quite important. And like I said, you have to also pass all of the fields, the ones that you have defined anyway, in the URL. So for example, the other SAP fields such as created on, created by, last changed on, last changed by, they'll be handled automatically, and these are fields that were appended by SAP automatically because of some of the checkboxes that I ticked in the features of my custom business object. So for example, the change documents, the system admin data is what made those additional fields being added to my custom business object. Now, what I've also done here is obviously I've created the service generation because I'm going to be exposing my my OData. So I want to have that CDS that is going to be created for my custom business object, and then I'll expose my CDS in a custom communication arrangement. Now, I've also added the UI generation so that I can directly on the UI verify the records that I might potentially be creating. So let's go to generated UI. And if I click on go, we'll see that I have just one record in my database for my custom business object so far. Okay, let's go back out of my custom business object, and like I said, the other thing that we need to do is we need to create a custom communication scenario that will wrap in a communication arrangement. So I've done this custom BO communication scenario, and for that all I've done is really add the inbound service and added the inbound ID that corresponds to the core data service, the CDS, that was generated for my custom business object. And then lastly, I've wrapped my inbound service in a communication arrangement, and the communication arrangement will essentially dictate a few things such as the calling system, importantly the calling user and password. And then here also I've got the information pertaining to the link that my service URL that I need to call when I'm trying to do my OData request. So I'm just going to copy this URL, and to test it out, we will be going to the application Postman. And what I've done here is I've already set up the basic authorization with the username and password that I had defined in my communication arrangement. And what you can already do here is you can append the URL that was generated in the communication arrangement with $metadata, then do a get send, and that will then give you the metadata of your service. And again, we can find the fields of the custom business object that I have created. And so for example, here we can see that we've got the ID, which is the key field, the description. What I'm also showing you here, which is important, is that if you recall, I had one field that was a amount with a currency. And what I'll need to do here is pass in one field the amount, the V for the value, and then the currency, which is going to be in the field appended with a C. I've also got available from, which is a date field. I've got the active requirement, which is a Boolean, so true or false. So you can append the URL with the dollar metadata to get the information pertaining to the metadata of your service. Now, let's, before we do that, let's go back to the SAP help. And the SAP help says that the example OData call, the URL that I should be calling is going to be then custom business object name CDS, which is what I already have, and that is what came from the service URL. Then I'll have a / the root name, so that's going to be / and the root name is going to be the root name of the custom business object. So I'll just quickly show you again. Custom business object, custom BO, and this is the root object. So let's go to 101 custom BO. So I'm going to put Y01 custom BO, and let's go back to the SAP help again. So this is when we then start SAP upsert question mark. So SAP upsert question mark, and now is when I'm going to start passing all of the parameters to my, or add them in my URL. So the parameters, you can simply add them here. So again, I'm just going to go back to my custom business object, look at the fields. And so the first field that I have, and actually it's the identifier that holds the name of the parameter that I want to pass. So the first one is going to be ID. So I'm just going to say ID. And the number that I'll be passing on is the record number 2, seeing as record number 1 already exists, and that field has been defined to be 10 positions, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And note that as I add the parameters down here, they are also then getting added to the URL that I've got here. So then the next field that I have is going to be a description, and the description again is going to be test upsert. Then the next key that I have is hourly rate. Now this is an amount with a currency, so this is where I need to have the _v and _c. So we'll say hourly rate is going to be, for example, 90. Oops, and I need to update that with a V, and then I'm going to also put hourly rate C and quotation marks, for example AUD for Australian dollar. I'll then have a number of devs, which is going to be a number, so I'll just put 2. Then we have available from, which is going to be a date format, and for that there is also a special format that you need to follow. So we have that if we go to updating an object from the help, you'll see in the example it tells you and the date field, so we need to put date time and then in quotation marks the date. So I'm just going to copy that piece here. So that's going to be date time, and we're going to say, actually I'll keep the date as it is there. We'll say 29th of the 1st 2019, and then let's see, the last field that I have in my custom business object is this one here, which is active requirement. And we are going to say that this is, actually we'll say it's true, so we have a checkbox being activated. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be sufficient. Okay, so now what we also need to do is, of course, we need to go and get the CSurf token. So I'm just going to say fetch, we'll do a send to go and fetch it, which is this one. So just do a copy now and update the fetch command with my csurf token. We need to now flip the message to a post, and we'll do a send, and let's see what happens. So the system says bad request. Let's see. Okay, so it tells me invalid function import, active requirement, expected type is Boolean. So let's see if we get rid of the quotations. And it looks like this time it was posted successfully. So again, the posting is done, and it then retrieves and shows me the records that were updated. So let's flip back into the S/4HANA Cloud system. Let's go to my records. If I click on Go, I should now have a new record coming up. Hey, and here we go, presto, record number 2. Now, we did a post in the OData call, and just to show you how the system takes care of doing an insert or an update, I'm going to go back into Postman, and I'm going to change some of the parameters. So I'm going to say for that same record, the rate has gone from, say, 90 to 100, and I'm also going to change the number of devs to be 3, for example. Again, I do a post. I'll get a status 200 OK. I go back to my S/4HANA Cloud system. I refresh by clicking on Go, and you can see that my updated field is correctly shown in S/4HANA Cloud. The hourly rate has gone up to 100. My number of devs has gone up to 3. And as I said, the beauty of all this is that I did not need to figure out whether my record already existed in my S/4HANA Cloud system. Hence, do I need to make a post or a patch OData call? The system took care of that on its own. So as you can see from a performance point of view, there's also probably a few milliseconds and a few optimizations to be gained by using this particular import function. So there you go. I hope you found this particular recording useful, and hopefully you'll get to use this particular import function on your project to try and be a bit kinder to the performance of your S/4HANA Cloud system as well. Thank you very much for your time. If you like this video, please do like us, subscribe for more, and we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.